Good to be here. I just wanted to thank the Green Party of Canada for inviting me here to be a speaker. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'd like to also thank the volunteers, Marlene and Kevin in particular, who drove me around today while I found some new clothes for tonight and some things that I needed because I, of course, lost my luggage. I just wanted to say also what a pleasure it's been to work with Elizabeth May for the last 2 years. Since September 2012, we've been working together on the Canada-China FIPA, as it's called. And I've gotten to know her quite well over the couple of years. Anahitmasa Atikshi Sawa. I want to acknowledge the people of this sacred land, the Maliseet, and humbly thank you for allowing me to be here to share this important information with the people here that are attending. Thank you. Uklama Hinataquis. My name is Hinataquis. It was a name given to me by my great-grandmother, and it means a voice to be heard. I was given this name when I was quite young. I was probably in my early 20s, and she had the foresight to see something in me that I didn't see myself. So I'm really grateful for this name. Hisikshakma Hupachaset. I am from Hupachaset. My whole body, including my inner self, is Hupachaset. Unulsi Hupachaset Aksup. I am a woman from Hupachaset. Unulsi Chamasit Masa Kwamuti Yakwi Miti. I want to put everything back in order, like our ancestral people who looked after and respected the land, the rivers, the people, the language, the culture, the dances, how they looked after one another, helped one another. We have gone off track. I want to put everything back in order. A correction needs to be made. Na'ata ich chani. Nahata ich chani. I'm just asking that people pay attention for the next little while I share with you this important message. Some of you might not know where Hupachaset is. We're a small nation of 300 people, and we're located on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. I'd like to tell you the story of how I first heard about the Canada-China Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement, which I'll call FIPA from here on in. I was sitting in a coffee shop with my girlfriend, and we were talking about Raven Coal, and we were going to set out to fight Raven Coal that wanted to transport coal from our port. And she said to me, "Did you get the email that I sent you?" And I said, "No, I didn't." She says, "Well, you better look at it. It's from Elizabeth May, and it's regarding the Canada-China FIPA." So I was in the restaurant and I had my BlackBerry. So I opened it up and there was a write-up on the agreement. But I couldn't believe it, because I couldn't believe the federal government would actually do something like this to the people of Canada. I was in shock, I was stunned. And I thought to myself, this can't be a real page. This has got to be, one of those pages that are made up. And so I went home and I looked it up on my home computer. And sure enough, there it was. And not only was it there, but it was also on the Government of Canada website. So then for me, I knew that this was a real agreement. I want to thank Elizabeth May. I'm not sure where she is in the room. Oh, there you are, Elizabeth, thank you. For sounding the alarm. and people have said this earlier about Elizabeth May, is that she speaks the truth on behalf of the people, and she speaks it for the good of the people. And I really appreciate your work. What I also want to say about FIPA and our fight that we have been up against is that all the necessary elements came together to permit things to happen and to proceed. And you'll see why when I tell you the story. So some people might ask, well, what is a FIPA? In its simplest terms, it is a bilateral agreement to promote foreign investment. When I first heard about FIPA, I went home and I started, Googling, well, what is this about? And whose name came up but Gus Van Harten. Gus Van Harten and Elizabeth May were the only two people speaking about the Canada-China FIPA in this country. And it was very technical. The articles that he wrote were very technical, and because I don't know anything about trade agreements, it took me a while to familiarize myself with what it meant. But one of the things that Gus Van Harten said was, Christy Clark, you better get yourself a lawyer. Why he said that was because the premiers have management rights over the natural resources. So I said to myself, well, if that's true of the premiers, certainly it's true for First Nations. And I'll tell people here something that was really disappointing to me, is that the premiers of each province who had the ability to step in, had the ability to speak on your behalf, had the ability to challenge this agreement, did not step forward on your behalf. So I picked up the phone. I thought, well, I'll phone Gus Van Harten and talk to him. And I did, and I asked him the question. I also talked to my sister Judith Sayers, who's a lawyer. Some of you in the room might know of my sister Judith Sayers. And she said, yes, we're in a position to challenge it. So, because Hupachesat First Nation is so small, we're 300 people, so we have one chief and two councillors. I was an elected councillor at that time, which was part of the ingredients that made this so phenomenal. I was a councillor for 2 years, and this was just before the election that this came out. I did something out of character. I decided that we were too small, we didn't have the capacity, because we have the same amount of portfolios as a nation with 12 or 16 councillors. I picked up the phone and I called across the country. I called the Cree in Saskatchewan. I called the Innu in Labrador. I called the Mohawks. I also called the First Nations Summit, which is in BC. The AFN Regional Chiefs of Quebec, the Northwest Territories in Ontario. The Chiefs of Ontario. The Union of BC Indian Chiefs. Amongst a bunch of other nations and First Nations organizations. And it seemed to me that no one was willing to come forward. And part of the problem was, though, I found, was that no one had heard about it. The other problem is that some of the First Nations that I talked to were looking into doing business with China. So what I did, I'm going to turn my page here. What I did was I approached our own chief and council. and together we reviewed FIPA. And when we looked at the agreement, we wanted to be in a position that when future generations, we could say to them that we took a stand and we said no. Because this agreement and impact isn't just about everyone in this room and your children and grandchildren. It's to do with future generations. And we said to ourselves, they have the same right to clean air, to clean water, and traditional foods of the land. And so what I did was I took a risk and I said to Chief and Council, I promise you that if you agree to proceed with a court challenge, that Hupachesset First Nation will not have to pay any money for the court case, because I will set out on a national fundraising campaign, working with the people of Canada. Because the way that we saw it was, this was not just an agreement that was going to affect First Nations people. It was an agreement that was going to affect all people of Canada. And we looked at this and we said, you know what? We're in this together. We're in this together, and I'm going to appeal to the people of Canada and demonstrate how it's going to affect all people. So we agreed. The court challenge is based on Section 35 of the Constitution of Canada, that Canada says they're to consult with First Nations before they enter into any what's the word? Developments that would affect our Aboriginal rights and title. That's what our court challenge is based on, Section 35. This is an extremely important court case. Never before has a court ruled when and how the federal government should consult with First Nations on international treaties. This would be the first time. But the federal government says, well, we can't really consult with over 600 nations in Canada. But we say differently, because we say, well, you have the ability to consult with the premiers and the municipalities. So you've already got things in place where you can do this. It's not impossible. So from there, I assembled a team. There's actually 3 main volunteers, myself and 2 others, who work on this on a day-to-day basis. We do the strategizing, we do the media, we do the fundraising, we do the communication. It's a big portfolio.